All right, everybody, and we are live. Welcome in, welcome in. I am going to retweet and post my live stream, and then we'll get right into it. All right. How is everybody doing? As you can see, people are already putting up where they're from. We should all go ahead and do that because I like to see it. We got the Republic of Mississippi in here, Seattle, Washington, Moscow, Russia. Nicholas says late. It is 2:01, and my stream has been going for 37 seconds, so I don't think I was late. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. We got Pakistan, welcome in, Jackie Chang. Change the name again. Ireland, Colombia, Missouri, Philippines, Bosnia, India, Serbia, France. Robert! It's not the not so hot UK. Nice. Sartova, Russia. No, Saratov, Russia, Portugal. Hello from Toronto. Hello, hello, hello. Mallorca? Mallorca? I don't know where that is. Norway, Austria, New York. Hi from France. Montreal, Canada. Airstrip 1 in the UK, Serbia, Ireland. Nice, guys. Nice, nice, nice. We got a lot of people in here today. Nice. The Netherlands. Nice. UK. All right, guys. All right, all right, all right. Welcome in. This is episode 166 of Calibrated with Scott. I am, of course, your host, Scott. We have a bunch of updates to talk about today. A lot's happening across the map in Ukraine. There are some larger geostrategic events going on surrounding Ukraine. There's some stuff going on in the Middle East that we're going to talk about. And yeah, so on and so forth. Remember, guys, if you have questions that you want answered during the live stream, if something comes up to you and you want me to answer it, you can always ask those through super chats. I will answer those no matter what they are. I'll always answer them, even if there's something stupid or whatever. I'll go into them. And then if you guys do have just questions, you can always throw them up in chat. I check over. Sometimes I hit them, sometimes I don't. I'm sorry if I miss your questions. The chat moves pretty quick. So, but like I said, we have a lot to talk about. And as you can tell by today's thumbnail and the title of today's episode, the Zelensky curse is back. We saw this in the Sumy region. We've seen this in the Pokrovsk area. We've seen this in Bakhmut. We've seen this in Chasiv Yar. We've seen it all over the place. And what we know that it means is that an area is about to experience some sort of Russian pressure. The Ukrainians are about to lose some ground in this area. And we're already kind of seeing where that's taking place and how that's going to present itself. Yo, Scott, if you're absolutely forced to guess, how many days till one are you at the Dnieper, and two, Zelensky is removed any number of days? You know better than anyone. Kindly thanks. Okay, well, I don't know if I know better than anyone, but first off, the Russians are at the Dnieper. They're already there in the Kherson region and in the Zaporozhye region. But if you mean in the Dnipropetrovsk region, like actually reaching the river, I would say you probably have a solid year and a half, depending. If there's a complete total collapse, that could change very rapidly. But if the Ukrainians sort of fight their way back and they have full U.S. support, which it kind of looks like they're going to be having, the Russians are going to be getting sanctioned. It doesn't seem like the war is going to slow down at all. If that is the case, I would not think that there would be any major rush on the Russian part. So I would not expect it to happen immediately, but you can already see that the lines are breaking, and there's certain areas in the east that once they fall, like Pokrovsk, like Konstantinivka, like Lyman, and these areas, once these areas start to fall, you're going to see this cascade effect where the entire Ukrainian line is just unable to stabilize. We're basically already at that point. It just hasn't gotten so progressively bad because there's still some level of fortifications that the Ukrainians are utilizing and stuff as they fall back. So that would be my first one. And then for the second one, Zelensky is removed any number of days. I don't know if he's going to be removed. The West seems to have made him their guy. It doesn't look like they're going to go back on that. I figured the opportunity to get him out of that position would have been when he took the Western anti-corruption watchdogs under the president of the office of the president, but he seems to have backtracked on that. So I just don't think that there's really going to be any sort of elections or any sort of overthrow of Zelensky until the war's over. So the number 1 and number 2 are probably a similar timeline. Seemingly real RU movement around Seversk and Lyman. Am I dreaming? No, you are not, sir. No, you are not. And we are going to get into it right now. All right, heading over to the map. The map. Everybody loves the good old map. We have quite a bit to talk about today. Let me put this up here. Let me go here. All right. We can start, actually, let's start in the north this time. We always start in the south. So we are going to talk about what is going on in Kupiansk to begin with. I was debating naming this stream, titling this stream something like Battle for Three Cities or something like that, because that's sort of what we're getting into. I made a tweet about this. I think this is the first time that the Russians have been actively fighting major battles in cities at the same time. You can say that like Bakhmut went on for a long time while other cities were being captured and stuff like that. But, you know, Bakhmut and Chasiv Yar, they were important battles and they were the primary focus of that. But and anything else around it was kind of secondary and tertiary. Now, how it feels and how it looks is that the Russians are capturing multiple cities at the same time. Unlike we've seen throughout the entirety of the war since maybe Mariupol was still being captured. So here we can see that the Russians have advanced into Moskova, which is a sort of like a neighborhood on the backside of Kupiansk, as well as have made it pretty decently far into Kupiansk itself along the river. This is on the western bank of the river, not the eastern bank. The Russians, again, have a hard time moving through this Petropavlivka area up here near Sinkivka. This area is defended very well by the Ukrainians. And so the Russians just crossed the river and are now attacking Kupiansk from the opposite side of the bank. And as you can see, logistics into this entire bridgehead are going to be incredibly difficult. I do believe that there are some small pontoon crossings. However, these are being hit very hard and very regularly. And I just want to go back and say that for the longest time, I've been openly protesting the Ukrainian willingness to stay in this pocket. I don't know what the overall thinking is by the Ukrainians as to why they have to hold this so intensely. I don't know if it's just they want to keep the Russians from gaining the railroad that runs through Kupiansk from northern Russia. I don't think that that's like a major like logistics issue for the Russians. I don't think this is a bottleneck. So I just don't fully understand the tactical decision or strategic almost at this point to stay in this area and try to hold this back outside of just hold everything at any cost. So I like I've said, I've been saying this for months now that they need to get out of this pocket because this exact thing is going to happen. And now we're beginning to look at a Ukrainian encirclement on this side of the Oskil River, while the Battle of Kupiansk is actively going on. So a lot's happening up in this sector currently, and we could see a massive territorial handover here to the Russians in short order. All right. All right, here we go. Moving down to the Lyman sector. Remember, guys, Lyman is critically important in this area. It feeds into the Serbiansky Forestry right here, which is a very difficult area for the Russians to move through. Kind of makes these two updates very important and significant. We'll talk about those in just a second. But Lyman is the major goal in this area. This is one of the objectives that I had predicted for the summer offensive. And most importantly, cutting off these sets of roads right here, this road that leads out of Lyman and this road that also leads out of Lyman along the rail line right here. are critically important junctures to cut off if the Russians want to secure the entirety of the Serbiansky Forestry, which would then allow them to cross the Severodonetsk River right here into the northern flank of Siversk. That would collapse Seversk, and then the Russians would basically be on their way to pushing towards Slavyansk and Kramatorsk. So a lot's happening, and the real gem of this entire front right now is Lyman. Lyman is the goal, and there's a couple different ways that the Russians are going to attempt to cut off Lyman. Primarily up in the north here, Russian forces have advanced into the village of Shandorhovle, which, in fact, there's confirmation now from Russian sources, and I'll actually add this to the map because we just saw this, that the Russians now have a comfortable foothold in the southern end of this village, or the northern end of this village. So I'm going to take an educated guess here and say that it looks something like this. We will not confirm this for right now. We will put this in purple, but it's something like this, of this significance. And it is important because if the Russians gain access to this highway right here, this leads directly into the back of Lyman. It is going to put a ton of pressure on this area just in general. And like I said, as soon as this all starts collapsing, it's going to be very difficult for the Ukrainians to hold Siversk, to hold the canal here to the north, and to hold the northern flank of Slavyansk. So really what could happen very quickly is if Lyman falls in short order, because there has to be, the Ukrainians are going to have to choose where they're going to defend. And this is what I've been talking about for the longest time, stretching and pulling the Ukrainians, taking them in this direction, forcing them into a certain pocket here, or, you know, whatever, just stretching and pulling, stretching and pulling. If you have a manpower advantage, a firepower advantage, you utilize those in ways that are going to benefit you. And if you can stretch and pull a smaller adversary into a million different pieces, they're never going to be able to fight you anywhere. And that's what we see happening. So up here in Kupiansk, if the Ukrainians want to save Kupiansk, which I don't know if they'll even be able to at this point, they will have to send a massive amount of reserves to try to hold the city. If that's the case, places like Lyman will be very weak. Places like Seversk will be very weak. Places like Konstantinivka could become very weak. Places like Pokrovsk, I mean, it's already basically falling, but could fall even quicker. Or you could see something in a direction that you wouldn't even necessarily expect, something like Holyai-Polye, Kharkiv, or as we were talking about, potentially up in the Chernihiv region right here as well. There's a number of possibilities, right? The Russians could attack in any number of locations because they have that manpower advantage and superiority. And as you can see, the Russians are taking advantage of that and advancing on multiple different areas of the map. Here, north of Lyman, remember, Stavki is on the high ground. It is a very, very important village. This is probably the single most important point in this entire area right here, other than these roads that lead over here. But if Stavki is captured by the Russians will have the dominant high ground that looks down on Lyman. So this is another very important advance here. Russian forces have captured the village of Kolodyazy, which is just north of Lyman. All right. First time since 2022 where two separate urban conglomerations of over 100,000 people, Pokrovsk and Minhorod, and the Kupiansk conglomerate. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. The first time we've seen major cities get fought over in a capitulating way, not in some, 2-year battle like we saw with Bakhmut or whatever. All right, moving over to the eastern portion of the Zhibyets River here, Russian forces have advanced into the village of Toretsk from the south. This is not the full update. The actual update is something more along these lines right here, this direction. This is just a frontline update because my front line in this area was not correct. I don't really update this area of the front unless I see significant and overwhelming evidence, because it's just all forest. So it's hard to know exactly where the Russians are and where the Ukrainians are. Moving to the south, We have another area that has just closed. Remember, we saw this Russian advance down here along this southern portion of the river. We do now have confirmation that that pocket to the north has closed. 4 square miles there, nearly 10 square miles there, which means that you have 20. Hold on. We're going to do some quick maths. 36 square kilometers of the Kupiansk forestry has been captured in this most recent update. So that's pretty huge. That's very significant, and we should see a good chunk of this forest come under Russian control as the summer turns into fall here, because this entire area, like I said, is getting very close to being cut off from supply. Even just this advance into Toretsk from the north makes holding this entire salient right here much more difficult. And just so you guys kind of get an idea, I'll do this real quick, just so you guys can kind of understand where the whole tactical situation lies for the Ukrainians. Kind of comes down here, but yeah. So this is sort of the salient that you're looking at right now that the Ukrainians are sitting in. We'll just go with dark blue. I'll delete this in just a second, but this is sort of the salient that they're sitting in, right? This is how they have to get logistics into this area. It is quite deep that you're talking about here, 8 miles, 9 miles. So very, very, very far into this forested area. Very easy to get hit by DRGs, deep reconnaissance groups, anything like that. So this is, again, another salient that the Ukrainians are finding themselves into, which they will be forced to leave eventually. All right, moving down to the Siversk section of the front. Russian forces have advanced in Srebrenica, as well as to the south. They have captured the village of Novoselivka, and now are directly outside of the city of Seversk, the town of Seversk, which, remember, Seversk is divided by the Bakhmutivka River. So there's a low ground that runs through this portion of town. High ground on this side, high ground on this side, but the Russians now control the dominant high ground in the region. And we will go over to the topographical map, because I have not looked at a topographical map of Seversk in some time. So we will go over and look at that now. Okay, so here's Seversk. You can see that the Russians now have all of the high ground outside of the village. Here is the, let's see, can you see Novoselivka? No, you can't see it, but it's right here. So the Russians have just now captured all of the high ground on this side of Seversk. They're now looking down on the valley itself. Remember, the Ukrainians do have high ground behind it, so keeping Seversk supplied is not going to be the most difficult. However, maintaining this side of the Bakhmutivka River in Seversk is going to be more difficult, and I do expect that the Russians will end up pushing in, and the Ukrainians will have to back up behind the river line to hold Seversk for as long as possible. All right. Okay. Moving down to the Toretsk area, but we'll call it the Konstantinivka front now. Russian forces have advanced through Novospassky and Srebrenica here and have captured most of the villages, along with the large industrial facility up here. It is also being reported that Russian forces have captured this entrenched position, as well as some entrenched positions along this railway right here, and have officially closed this pocket around Kalibrated. So this would mean that the Ukrainians that are in this fortified line right here and in these two villages are now likely, if not fully encircled, in a tactical encirclement, making any retreat highly risky. Okay. All right, moving over to the, we're still kind of on the Konstantinivka front. We'll keep calling it the Konstantinivka front. Russian forces have advanced out of Poltavka, have made it into this next fortified line here to the north, and have also advanced into the village of Rusinar, which likely is fully captured by Russians, but we have not got a geolocation for this northern part of the village, so we are waiting on that. But this is again important because the Russians are getting onto the high ground back here. They're going to continue pushing for Mykolaiv, and that will put them directly behind Konstantinivka, where they will be able to look down on the logistics going into the city. Again, Konstantinivka is going to be very difficult for the Ukrainians to hold now that they have lost Chasiv Yar. They are losing all of the high ground around Toretsk, and over here, the Russians are about to break through into the back line where Ukrainian fortifications are becoming much, much thinner and sparsely connected. All right, moving over to Pokrovsk. We have more movement on the Pokrovsk front here. So Pokrovsk and Minharad have been in a pretty bad situation for some time. Situation is getting worse by the day. Previously, Russian forces had made it to the rail line here north of Radanske. That has been updated. Russian forces have captured this village just north of Radanske, as well as the fortified line that runs along the railroad. It is also likely that this fortified line is captured all the way up over here to Mayak, but that is not confirmed as of right now. It is also reported that Russian forces have pushed into the industrial facility east of Radanske and south of the industrial heap here. Remember, guys, if these two industrial heaps fall, the battle for the city is done. The Russians will have full fire control over the exits out of the city. They probably already do, being on this hill right here, but this hill makes it even worse. And this will spell the end for the Pokrovsk salient. But again, you can see that just like in the forest and just like over by Toretsk, the Ukrainians have yet again found themselves in a 10-mile deep pocket. There are now multiple pockets set up for the Ukrainians across the map, and things are just going to continue to devolve from here. Russian forces have advanced into the southern end of Pokrovsk. They control a majority of this road that leads in, and they control most of the park in this area. All right. I think that's it for updates today. All right. All right. I am done with my map stuff. I have a little bit of talking to do. Let's see. We have the Western sanctions. So the Trump administration is deciding to continue a pressure campaign against the Russians. I honestly don't know what the plan is. I don't see the plan. I didn't see the plan with the Biden administration. It seemed very incoherent and lost. The Trump administration seems in such a much worse off situation. They're now dealing with the complete ethnic cleansing and genocide of Gaza. So that's currently ongoing. That's taking a lot of bandwidth. But at the same time, Trump has completely changed his tune, has gone full neocon with his actions. And it's very clear that, none of what he had promised in his campaign is ever going to come true. More wars now than ever, not releasing lists and not, every single thing that you can imagine is basically going on right now. And they're doing everything to force distractions and get people angry and get people emotional. And part of that is, for some reason, doubling down on Ukraine. pretending like Russia is the biggest issue that the United States has, making this the focal point of U.S. focus right now. It's a complete joke. I don't know how anybody can sit back and look at this and make an argument and say this is the right thing to do ever. I mean, not let alone. I mean, we can just talk about supporting Ukraine. Sure, whatever. The U.S. wants to support Ukraine. That's fine. That's if that's the right thing for the U.S. to do geostrategically, maybe whatever it is. Fine, go for it. But it doesn't. It doesn't impact the United States in the way that other things are currently impacting the United States, and the way that we need to focus on things is not in this way. If you want to protect Ukraine, if you want to go all in on Ukraine, do it the entire time. Don't take 4 months and piddle paddle around and not do anything while they're getting their heads beaten in, and then come out and say, "Oh no, we are actually in full support of Ukraine and we don't want them to lose," while you just allowed them to get in a worse position over the first 4 months of your presidency. Doesn't make any sense to me, right? If you're going to do something, do it, commit to it, get it done, be vicious and win. Like that's what you have to do. And that's just not what we're doing. And so not only do I see this sort of reapproach to the Russia-Ukraine war by Trump to be not genuine. I don't think it's genuine at all. I think that this is sort of what the U.S. had planned, but Trump is really drumming it up right now to distract from Epstein and everything that's going bad within his own party. So it's partially theater, but also partially. I think that the U.S. is starting to understand that they've bitten off more than they can chew. The Russians are incredibly strong. The Russians are not in a position. Or they're not in a mood to negotiate, and that's very bad for the West because the West cannot maintain this attrition warfare, especially across multiple fronts. I don't think Iran is done. I think that we're still going to push for regime change in Iran. They still have a nuclear program, and Trump has basically committed to saying that a nuclear program is the first step towards developing a bomb, even a civilian program, so they can't have it. They didn't destroy it. We're going to be back at war with Iran again. So we got a lot on our plate, right? We got a lot going on. We got a lot to take care of. If this is the direction we decide to go, which we are, and to kind of flip-flop on Ukraine doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense from either perspective. Either drop them and move on, or commit to them and help them do whatever you need to do to help them survive or win or whatever the delusion is, right? So again, I see it as theater. I see it as just bolstering and drumming up nonsense, like Trump sending the 2 nuclear submarines into the Pacific Ocean to watch the Russians. It's like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? They have ICBMs, and that they have that you have ICBMs. Like deploying 2 submarines is like it's like the stupidest escalation you could try to do. It doesn't make any combat sense. It doesn't make any strategic sense. It's just a distraction. Trump is really, really good at this, getting people hyper emotional and fixated on things that just do not fucking matter. And that's kind of what he's doing with Ukraine right now. They know what the situation in Ukraine is. They know how this is going to end. They know what they're going to be able to accomplish at the negotiating table. And they're still pretending like they're somehow going to bring a sanctions regime upon Russia that's going to destroy them. We're 4 years into a war where sanctions have been levied 18 separate times against every single individual in Russia. Do we not understand at this point that sanctions aren't going to work? So then we move to tariffs, which tariffs are, if you want to talk about a double-edged sword, tariffs are where it's at, because to tariff people is not really to make the Russians pay, right? The Russians aren't paying when you threaten tariffs on people. The tariffs against places like India and China for buying Russian oil are what we're talking about. This is or sanctions, either one, however you want to put it. The Indians have outright denied that they are going to follow any sort of threats by the United States for India buying Russian oil. This is a huge red flag if you're looking at this from the U.S. perspective. The fact that you can't get third-party nations like India to hop on board with what you're doing is just really not a good sign, especially when India is buying so much Russian oil right now and they're making so much money off of it. It's it's a really bad move to start threatening your allies like that. India is not necessarily an ally, but um, countries that are at least neutral to you and will take your side potentially, threatening them with tariffs, threatening their economies, really not the right way to go about it. China said that they're not going to go along with it. So right there you have like what, 2/8 of the world's population, or a third of the world's population just in one little part of Asia, all buying Russian crap still. So that's not going to change anything. That's going to continue. And just the US's options are slowly starting to run out. And this is what I've talked about for a long time: is these sanctions, they only work the first time. If you use them again and again and again and again, people learn how to work around the sanctions. People learn how to deal with the sanctions. People learn how to remove themselves from your leverage, so those sanctions never work again. And that's the position Russia, North Korea, Iran, China, they're all in. They're all in that position, right? Particularly the U.S. and China's economies are too intertwined to really do that. If we hurt the Chinese economy, we hurt our own economy. Saw an article about a disaster in the United States where states needed their disaster aid, and the Trump said states will get it if they ban Israeli protests. Yeah, this is another thing: is we are now withholding foreign aid if you criticize a foreign government on U.S. soil. Or I'm sorry, we're withholding domestic aid to states for disaster relief. It's literally disaster relief aid for your civilians who are dying in floods, like in Texas. Remember when that was a big deal, when you were trying to distract from Epstein? Like that's the kind of stuff. And to say that a place doesn't deserve life saving rescue aid, because they boycott Israeli companies is like the most un-American thing I think I've ever heard in my entire life. Like when you think of like the American ideal, it's very pathetic. I think it's hurting him again. Nobody gives a shit about Israel over here anymore. It's all the boomers, and they're all dying, and it's the best thing ever. The boomers can go, just let them go. Let all that wealth be redistributed. That's fine. But yeah, no, this is a very real thing, and you should be very worried, because this is the kind of stuff that, just wait until another 9/11 happens. Just wait until the next thing happens that the government will use as a tool of fear to strip away more of your freedoms. Just wait. There's nothing even scary going on, and they're taking away your right to freedom of speech. Your right to boycott foreign companies who are actively participating in ethnic cleansing and genocide. So yeah, no, it's disgusting. And it's going to definitely, I mean, I know he doesn't care because he's not going to be up for reelection, but it's definitely going to hurt his party's ability to get reelected. Not that matters. Uniparty, none of it matters. 20 sets of throwing it back on BB. Yeah, no joke, dude. On our knees 24/7, spit polishing BB for fun. The amount of the raw amount of blackmail material they must have, and the amount of money that they push into US politics and business and everything like that, has to just be unbelievable. It's just so insane. And yeah, and Americans are also just incredibly uneducated when it comes to these sort of things, so they truly do not know much of what's going on at all. It's shocking sometimes when I talk to people about what's going on over there, and they just have literally not a ounce of knowledge about what's happening. Pretty sure he's what? Pretty sure he's scared to say the word Islamist. Who? Me? Hey, Chief, is this an open stream? I don't know what that means. Open stream. Like people can come on? No, this is not an open stream, if that's what you mean. Yeah, so there's quite a bit going on right now, but the whole sanctions and tariffs regime, the doubling down on Ukraine, I don't know why Trump is trying to make this his war. He's going to come out of this in a very, very bad. I think Trump's second presidency is going to look absolutely abysmal. I think you're going to see billions of dollars just thrown at Israel and Ukraine, not accomplishing anything. Ukraine's going to lose big. If the Iranian regime is not overthrown, there's going to be major problems in the Middle East eventually. So I do believe that's coming. And I think the overthrowing of that regime is going to be an absolute nightmare for the US over the next 15 to 20 years. But it's good for Israel because Israel likes that chaos in the region. So, yeah, BB holding Trump hostage with that list. Yep. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. When a guy is talking nonstop about releasing it, and Pam Bondi is talking about releasing it, and then a few Benjamin Netanyahu visits later, Trump saying the list doesn't exist. They don't want to re-victimize the girls that are now adult women who would much rather see the people who did that to them thrown in prison forever. But now we can't do that. That's, guys, are you seriously talking about that? You know that there are floods in Texas right now, right? You guys know about the floods. You guys know that there's a tornado that ripped through a town yesterday? A tornado. And you guys are still talking about Epstein. It's crazy. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and throw them up. I'm kind of done. I've done my little bit. Calibrated. Will Trump greenlight more terror campaigns in Ukraine if the front continues to fall apart? Oh, I think you're about to see one. Little prediction here. Here we go. Let me line this up. Little prediction time. I fully believe that within the next month, you are going to see another terror attack inside of Russia, something that is going to derail negotiations again. Don't be surprised if it happens. It's coming. So, yeah, I agree. What would it be Russia's response? They're just going to keep doing the same thing that they've been doing, buddy. Have you ever seen the Russians respond? They just keep taking more territory. Yeah, it's not like the U.S. as a nation promised Ukraine support for as long as it needed, right? No, we did, which was again one of the stupidest things Biden ever did. As long as it takes is the stupidest phrase ever, ever. Why would you commit to supporting a proxy indefinitely when you could achieve a ceasefire that would actually benefit your proxy in continuing the war later on in the future? No, instead you turn the Russians cynical, and now they won't negotiate with you, and you're just going to continue losing. What happened to the Lancet? Is it still being used? Yes, the Lancet is still being used. It's just it's in a much more niche position now for very, very deep strike operations against like artillery pieces and stuff like that. It's not used against frontline vehicles. FPVs do a better job, honestly, than Lancets, and they cost a lot less. Lancets are good, though, as a long-term loitering munition deep. So 20, 30 kilometers behind the lines, 40 kilometers, you start to see the Lancets getting used. Good question, though. You said there was news from the Middle East. Oh yeah, just that the Israeli government seems to have gone ahead with they're going ahead with their plan to fully annex the Gaza Strip. So they're going to annex it, and then they're going to. Trump says that they're going to rebuild it if Hamas gives up control over the Gaza Strip. Which, why would they do that? First off. Second off, why are my tax dollars going to pay for that? Why? Why? Makes no sense. What are your thoughts about the digital ID stuff Western governments are trying to push? This totally won't be used to suppress free speech. Yeah, no, it's just, guys, we're just slowly stepping further and further into a 1984 sort of situation. It's actually much worse than that already. It's just not presented in such a dark and evil manner. We are literally in it already. You can't say anything about Israel or your country doesn't get fucking disaster aid for hurricanes and shit. How fucking stupid is that? You should be able to boycott whoever you want. But the government just tells you, no, you're not allowed to do that because we're all pedophiles and they have a bunch of videos of us fucking kids. It's insanity, dude. It's insanity. People are getting booed off stages, though. Politicians are getting booed for their support of Israel and stuff. So it's really just the elites that are doing it, and that's not going to last for very long. Things are super unpopular like that. They never last. Question: ever wonder what Ukraine will look like if they rejected Newland's cookies? Beautiful, untainted. No Russian invasion, no war. Probably trading very well with the Russians, but that's a reality we don't get to live in, friend. Will the Republicans try to remove Trump? Why would they do that? They're all voting right along with him. They love him. They're all paid by AIPAC. They're all paid by the military-industrial complex. They all vote yes on all the same shit. So no, they will not try to remove him. He's doing a good job for them right now. What do you think the future of Russian-Israeli relations entail? So I'm not a huge expert just overall on Russian-Israeli relations. I know that they have been close in the past. I know that since the war in Gaza has been going on, they've gotten very, very distant. They still communicate. Putin has had 2 calls with Benjamin Netanyahu this week, which I think is out of the ordinary. I just know that I just read that he had 2 calls with him. But the thing is Israel like Russia's problem? Like, there's Israel is just an extension of the United States, and if the United States wants to keep doing stuff in the region, they're going to keep doing stuff in the region. Like, the Russians don't have any say, so I feel like it's almost like a neutral position. It's like, as long as you're not fucking with our stuff, we're not going to mess with you. There's a lot of Russians in Israel as well, so well, your tax dollars destroyed Gaza. I mean, yeah, you're right. If anything, my tax dollars should be going to rebuild it since we destroyed it. But why did we destroy it in the first place? And why do we have to rebuild it at all? So double my tax dollars getting fucked away from me. How come nobody talks about the genocide in Sudan? Because that's a different genocide. That is not it's different when it's a state sanctioned genocide against a group of people that is highly entrapped and that state is backed by the United States. There's always genocides happening in the Congo and the different areas of Africa where you constantly are seeing these genocides happen and stuff. People are talking about it. AMK talks about it all the time, but it's just not as pressing as the one that we are actively supporting directly. I mean, it's our 2,000-pound bombs that are blowing babies to pieces. So it's a little bit different, just from my perspective, at least. What is your take on Russia lifting missile restrictions in Ukraine? I think that this is a non sequitur. Really, I don't know. I mean, they might fire some Orishniks. I don't know. I'm not going to make any predictions on that. It just seems more like a saber rattling. The U.S. put submarines in the Pacific, so the Russians say we're going to use our intermediate and medium range ballistic missiles whenever we want, which is not really saying much because they already dropped out of the INF. So Since you and legendary David D are from neighboring states, Texas, New Mexico, I highly suggest you do a live stream meetup with him. It would break the viewership record. Yeah, no, that kind of person will never actually do something like that. See, I would be down, whatever, but he would never do something like that. That would be embarrassing for him. First off, he can't compete with me on a communication level, like a linguistic level. Like he would not be able to keep up with me. I would just trounce him. I do that with a lot of people when I get into conversation with them. I'm very pronounced, I guess, in any sort of conversation I'm in, and yeah, it would not be good. People like that are online for a reason. People like that don't do live streams like this for a reason. See, I can sit here and talk to myself in a camera for literally 4 hours without skipping a beat because I'm a insane lunatic. It's getting increasingly likely that Congress will approve another 50 billion aid package for Ukraine and Trump will sign it, isn't it? I don't know, bro. I'm not. I honestly, at this point, anything is possible. Anything is possible. 25 billion, 50 billion, 100 billion. I would not be surprised at all if anything like that happens. We are recommitting to them, which is a huge mistake. I think it's a huge mistake just for our own hegemonic interests. I don't think it is a good idea, but hey, it's what we're going to go with. Question. If the public does not like the Israel stuff and everything else, might the Elon party have a chance? Fuck no. What the fuck are you talking about? Would the Elon party have a chance? Bro, you live in a it's not there's no parties. There are no parties. There are lobbies, and those lobbies all kind of want the same thing. There's no uniparty. There is a third party, the Libertarian Party. There have been other parties throughout the time that we've been voting, but those parties don't ever do anything, and it's not because they're libertarians, and it's because they don't the Republicans and the Democrats are a uniparty system, and they don't want anybody else coming in with any other ideas. Literally, Bernie won the Democrat nomination for president, and they just gave it to Hillary Clinton. So I mean, even within the party, you can't make change. You think you're going to create change outside of the two institutions? No. Sorry. Sorry, that's just not going to happen. Dude, spats with David D are so fucking funny. It's gotten to the point where every time he tweets, gets a meltdown, and the replies it's just so fun. Yeah, it's like I don't get it. I don't get. He's been poking at me. I know it's because I'm a bigger account and I give him a lot of attention, but like whenever I comment on him, but I've had him muted for like over a year. It's been fantastic. I rarely see anything. Sometimes people will send me stuff like, "Look, he's talking shit about you," and then every time I see those, I just go in and I'll literally put just the best comment, and it's my favorite thing. People are like, "Why are you arguing with the idiots?" I'm like, I'm not arguing with him. I'm literally destroying every single post he makes about me. He makes a post about me, and I just crush it. And then you can see by the likes, like I ratio him. So good times. I love it. I love talking shit. What did I train today? I haven't trained yet. I did morning cardio and abs and calves this morning, but back. I have back today. That's after this live stream. Good question. Am I into calisthenics? I don't do a lot, but I do think that things like push-ups and pull-ups and dips are incredibly important. So, not like I mean, I'm not like over there, yucking a kettlebell around or anything like that. Like that's just not how I train. I don't particularly like it. A lot of the balance stuff is not my favorite. Not because it is helpful, and it's just not what I like to train. I like the more bodybuilding weight training style. So, but I do dips and pull ups and push ups, mix those in with all of my workouts as supersets and stuff like that for sure. All right, let's see. Slightly off topic, but did Epstein get rich out of seemingly nowhere? You just red pilling yourself right now, or what's going on, homie? you just woke up. Yeah, he had like a $50 billion or $50 million flat in New York that was just given to him by the CEO of Victoria's Secret for no reason. Thank you, brother. Hey guys, remember, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. But also, if you're not new here, please give me a like and a comment and turn on those notifications so you guys know when I do a live stream, when a new live stream is coming on. You'll get that little notification, that little bell, and that'll help you guys stay connected as well. I appreciate you so much. You should invite Greg Terry on. I don't know. Nobody's gonna come on here, dude. I told you guys, I'm a loose cannon. I have nothing to lose. I will call people out on their bullshit right away. I'm too dangerous. You can't be around me. Like that's why I talk about, like, people are like, oh, you should have a debate with this guy or this guy or this guy. I'm like, no, it's just not. It never works out like that. Yeah, see, this is everybody's always like, you should invite David D on for a stream. No, he's not going to come on my platform. He barely could stand it when I was talking to him in his own space. Like, he literally was muting me in his own space, so I wasn't able to talk. And it's like, okay, like, it's just, you're not dealing with a real person. You're dealing with like an ideological mold that just yells at you. Are you gonna get another live stream with AMK mapping anytime soon? Yeah, I can. I can, guys. I can do it anytime, really. I just have to commit to it. Ask them if they want to do it. The thing with AMK is he's in New Zealand, so it's always like crazy times, but that's fine. All right. I remember Calibrated from back in the change. He hasn't changed. I'm not gonna change. Nothing will change me. That's the one thing you guys will always have to latch on to with me, is I'm never gonna be paid by anybody because I just don't give a shit. I don't care about anything like that enough. Like, I don't have any deep, like, I don't know. There's no ideological drive in me. I like proving people wrong, and I like showing people that things are not as they think that they are and stuff like that. I think that that's like one of the best things. So yeah, no, never gonna take money. My words are always gonna be mine. If they're wrong for that reason. They're not wrong because somebody's telling me what to say. Yeah, but you could take a supplement deal. Yeah, me just pushing supplements on my live stream. Oh man, could you imagine? Because that's like one of the things that I always get called. They're like, "Oh, you're a supplement salesman," because I had a job when I was 19 where I was working at a supplement shop for minimum wage. Like, okay, so that would be so funny though if I started pushing like creatine on here and protein. I just have it behind me, like on a shelf, and I sell it. Would there be a continued insurgency after the Russo-Ukraine war ends by the U.S. in order to cause some distraction to Russia? Very possible, but it's going to be very hard. Ukraine is very flat agricultural land. It's really hard to run a terror campaign in that. You need forests, jungles, mountains, caves, that sort of stuff. Works a lot better. So it's possible, but Russia has a very good internal security service that will be working very diligently inside of Ukraine after that happens. So I doubt it, honestly. And truly, I think that the energy for that is sort of gone. I think if the Russians would have capitulated Ukraine in the first couple of weeks of the war in 2022, that there was a very real possibility that you could have seen a much grittier and evil insurgency. Now, I think a lot of the men are dead and gone, and a lot of the men are completely exhausted and disillusioned by what has happened. So I don't think that there's really going to be like a rally around the flag, sort of like insurrection or uh, armed rebellion, or I don't know what you would call it. Not against the Russians. How about a weight and sneaker deal? Ooh, a sneaker deal. I don't even wear sneakers. What's your opinion on Fetty mapping? He's cool. I talk to him all the time. I think. Hold on. Let me see something real fast. Yeah, I talk to him all the time. He's cool. He's a cool guy. I disagree with him on a lot of things, but I'm in a group chat with him, and he's pretty cool. Oh, I could do a razor deal. Oh, that's cool. That would actually be sick. If I could get a Gillette sponsorship for this thing. Ooh, Gillette. If you want some risque political commentary, get it here. Come sponsor me here. Dog, you look like shit. What happened? Do I look like shit? I don't know. What happened? What the fuck happened? Okay. All right, guys. That's where I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been episode 166 of Calibrated with Scott. I am going to be doing smaller live streams, just kind of casual, more talking, not so much necessarily news based. So I'll probably be doing those every like 2 days now. I think I'm going to start doing those. So be on the lookout for those. I will be doing live streams, just more like chatting with you guys, more relaxed. And then we'll still have the regular live streams. It'll be in a different series too. It won't be calibrated live. It'll be something else. So be on the lookout for those as well. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. Turn on that notification bell. Be safe, and I will see you on the next episode. Goodbye.